Hello, podcast family, and welcome back to episode number 9 of Comfort and Chaos. You know, something I've realized lately as I have been listening to podcasts, and I listen to a lot of podcasts because I like podcasts, obviously. But sometimes podcasts I really like have incredibly long intros. And I mean, just a guy talking about stuff for like 20 minutes. And it just had me realizing that I don't enjoy that. And maybe you don't either. So here's my vow to you. This podcast is free. I'm not supported by any advertising or anything like that. I have no obligation to say anything. I'm going to keep these intros as short as possible for as long as possible. So I hope that's welcome news for you. With that said, I do have a bit of news of my own to unroll about the Comfort and Chaos podcast and where it's headed. A week from this episode, I'll have another episode out. I'm really excited to share that conversation with you as well. And then after that, we're going to take a mid-season week or two off. I'm going traveling through Germany, which is very exciting. And I will be collecting some interviews and just some recordings of me talking to random German people. And it's going to make its way to the podcast in some way, shape, or form. But just bear with me as we take a little bit of time off. I hope you guys don't forget about me while I'm gone. Anyway, that leads us to today, which is an amazing conversation with a new friend of mine named Sam Believ. Sam is the founder of Lawayra Ayahuasca, which is an ayahuasca retreat in the beautiful mountains of the country of Colombia. Sam was kind enough to sit down with me and the podcast and share so much knowledge about ayahuasca and how it's improved his life, how it has changed his life, and subsequently the lives of many people he's come into contact with. It left me feeling just inspired, curious, open to, well, who knows, the possibilities of doing ayahuasca. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this conversation as well. It was very mind-opening. And if at the end of this conversation, any of you guys are feeling curious about ayahuasca, reach out to me. Maybe we can all go to Colombia together and have a wild spiritual experience. That would be crazy. Anyway, I'll let this conversation speak for itself, as always, and see you on the other side. Y'all enjoy my conversation with Sam Believ of Lawayra Ayahuasca.
We all are here together just to learn about ourselves and how we can take care of everybody else. Living on a planet that is circling the drain, we do the best we can to not just go insane. It's comfort and chaos.
All right, Sam Believ, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ellie.
Yeah, thanks, man. And how's your morning going? Where are you actually sitting right now? Where are you?
I'm currently sitting in a rural location 1 hour south of Medellin, Colombia. That Medellin that everyone is so afraid of, or used to be, But it's no
Yeah.
longer 80s, so it's actually a pretty safe and nice place. Since it's green all over, and it's like a tropical paradise when it's summer all year round.
Yeah.
What
No,
about
there is
you?
I am in a different sort of paradise. I live on the east coast of the United States, very small island actually. It's called Cape Hatteras, but it's on the Outer Banks. I'm not sure if you ever heard of that or maybe seen the Netflix TV show called The Outer Banks.
I'll have
which
to Google it
actually
after that
don't.
to find it.
Yeah, I mean, you can watch the Netflix series. It's honestly not at all like where I live, but that's Netflix for you.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, Colombia, I've heard just such wonderful things about in the most recent years of people visiting there, and just how beautiful it is, affordable for tourism, and it sounds awesome.
Colombia
Um,
is now finally getting a tourism it deserves because of
yeah,
the sort of years of turbulence and violence and stuff like that and drug trafficking. It was
sure.
really overlooked, but it's such a beautiful place. Like you can get everything from oceans to seas to snow, ice on the mountains and jungles and
Coffee.
rivers
You
and
guys are
lakes.
like you guys are in
It
like
has
coffee
everything.
plantation territory, yeah, where you guys live?
What do you say?
A big coffee growing region is like where you're
Yeah.
at?
All around Medellin, pretty much in every direction, there's coffee farms, and yeah, the coffee here is pretty awesome. Pretty good
Yeah.
coffee.
I used to
So,
actually be a craft coffee roaster, and Colombian coffee was just one of my favorites. So good.
yeah, if you're into coffee, you should come over as well.
Yeah. Well, this is this podcast is a sort of a I'm doing it for other people who listen to the podcast, but I'm also interviewing you as like, maybe I should go take this opportunity and visit you guys.
Well, if by the end of this episode, if I don't convince you, I don't convince anyone.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
That's a good
let's
point.
let's set it as a goal. I need to convince you to come and drink ayahuasca with us.
I like that goal. Now, you don't have a Colombian accent. Where are you from?
No, I'm actually Latvian originally. I was born and raised in Latvia. I was actually born in Soviet Union, so my first 3 years were in Soviet Union, and then I grew up in Latvia. Then I only moved to Colombia about 7 years ago, and it was
Okay.
just like it happens with many people. They come to Medellin to visit, and never want to leave. It happened to me,
Mm,
and yeah, found this new lifestyle here, and I'm really happy with it.
wow. I'm happy. I'm happy it worked out for you. Again, I live in a place where that tends to happen as well as people come to visit and they want to stay. And for some people, it works really well, and some people it doesn't last very long. So I always love to hear success stories about that. And
Well, with traveling, it's interesting because you can come to a place and fall in love with it, but once you settle there and you figure out the real problems, then
mhm,
this is how people come and then afterwards leave. But Colombia has its problems as well, but the benefits highly outweigh the negatives. It's just the weather alone, man. Like,
mm.
but yeah, this episode is not about Colombia, but Colombia and ayahuasca are, it's my one of the things I love the most in life. So can't
Sure.
help
And
myself.
and and it sort of is about Colombia because there is a very historic tie between ayahuasca and Colombia.
Hmm.
So from that, let's go ahead and dive into that. We can get in later into how ayahuasca came into your life, but just from your own um, point of expertise and knowledge, tell the listeners like what is ayahuasca?
Hmm. So first, yeah, I would like to say, as I said regarding the tourism, and as Colombia was overlooked for its tourism, it was also overlooked for its ancestral medicines because people were just too afraid to come here. And like historically, the regions where ayahuasca grows, because they're like on the fringe, they're also the least controlled regions. So that's where all the bad things were happening. So because of that, it's kind of a blessing and a curse. And it's a blessing because you see what happened to Peru. It was the psychedelic tourism. It went out of the control, and now they sell ayahuasca on the market. It's completely not regulated, and it's chaotic, and that's where ayahuasca gets some of its bad reputation. And because Colombia was not overlooked, they did not like over harvest their plants, and they did not. lose the tradition and some form of control over it. So actually, because of that, now as a tourism is catching up, the psychedelic tourism is also catching up, and people are starting to realize that not only Colombia is as traditional for ayahuasca but as Peru, it's even better. Like I remember when I first came to Colombia, I already had heard about ayahuasca and I was somewhat curious about it, and I was like, yeah, I'll have to wait till I go to Peru or maybe Costa Rica. Little did I know that ayahuasca and Costa Rica don't have anything to do together. It's just
Mm,
they just decided to put it there so it's closer for American tourism
right.
to come there. And actually, most of the ayahuasca that's served in Costa Rica and Mexico comes from Colombia, not from Peru, because of that
Hmm.
weird sort of. It's as if like imagine you are Cuba, but nobody knows about Cuban cigars, and they go and buy Cuban cigars in like Panama or something like that. It's kind of
Sure.
ridiculous. So when I first learned about it and experienced ayahuasca myself, I got really passionate about the subject. Obviously, you can see since I dedicated my entire life to it. But one of the things was like I wanted to sort of fix that historical misconceptions, like.
Mm,
Ayahuasca. That's why our website still, our retreat is called Lawayra, but our website is still ayahuasca in Colombia because, like, I wanted to like there is ayahuasca in Colombia. So,
yes.
and but what is ayahuasca? Well, ayahuasca is a brew. It's a tea. It's basically a mixture of two plants that are boiled together for several days that produces a brew that you drink, and it's an extremely healing medicine that from the words of our visitors here at Lawayra is compares to 10 years of therapy. Ayahuasca can be used, for healing mental illness, depression, anxiety, PTSD, you name it, to also just connecting to spirituality, unlocking your creativity. It's basically like, in a way, like a one uh, one thing one fits all kind of approach where it helps with physical ailment but also mental, but at the same time it's not a magic bullet where like it will fix everything for you. It is
Mm,
basically a tool that will reveal your problems to you and give you solutions, and then you need to do the work to get the relief. But
yeah.
ayahuasca is magical, man. I hope I'm giving it good credit with my explanation, but um,
No,
let me
absolutely.
know
And
if that was suitable.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you shared what you shared before about this aspect of tourism that has come under criticism, definitely in some media sources about this ayahuasca based tourism in different, especially Peru and some areas of Central America, and how there is a bit of a connotation of it being this sort of white privilege pilgrimage kind of thing, coming to
Hmm.
these tribal lands and partaking in ceremonies, etc. But I really like that you brought that up and also have such a passion for the deep history and culture, and I mean the lineage of this brew and how it's held such ceremonial value for a long time and still does hold that value. And so going into, like you said, all of the different things that ayahuasca can do for you now as a modern person, it is really cool to see how ayahuasca's, like you said, it's magical, but it's also very rooted in science. I
Hmm.
mean, a lot of studies are being done on the effects of the chemical compounds in ayahuasca and what it's doing for people in a very scientific clinical way. But then there's also this very spiritual aspect of it, and I think the two have to exist together. I think that's, especially in the West, we tend to sever our relationship to any kind of holistic or spiritual aspect to our healing or our medicines. It's very much like, here's the chemical to take that will solve your problem. And like you said, the thing about
Hmm.
ayahuasca is it's not going to solve your problems. It's going to bring you to them and give you the tools to finally work through them. And that's actually being shown in studies in psychologists who are doing this work. And like you said, experiencing this incredible time warp of 10 years of therapy being done in a 10-day period, which is I mean, if we're not all talking about this, I don't know why.
Yeah, well,
So,
what you just said is the key, is the key word. It's a marriage between the ceremony and tradition and the science. Like what we do here, for example, we try to approach Western, connect Western approaches like talk therapy together with this old tradition, and really create something that's extremely powerful. And if you really go deep with spirituality, or if you really go deep with the science, eventually they interlap to the point where there is no real separation. It's us humans and our sort of limited
mm,
capability of perception. We need to separate things to understand them separately. But really,
mm,
like if you look at quantum physics, for example, like that shit gets
mhm,
spiritual, because there are like there are things that cannot be explained with science alone. And then eventually, when you go deep enough, then you understand, we are all spiritual beings, and this reality here is not just us sort of being meat machines that reproduce and die. And there's deeper meaning to all of that, and we can talk about it as well. But what I wanted to address first is what you just said regarding like this sort of white people coming to the jungle, sort of drinking ayahuasca and stealing the tradition. That is kind of being a problem. And I can, I'm here running a business, and you arguably can say I'm also white, and also like trying to steal the tradition. But I think it can be done properly, and I believe
mm,
the key once again is to not separate the ceremony from ayahuasca, to not
mm,
separate ayahuasca from indigenous people and their tradition, and to actually try and find a way that both white people that come to heal benefit, and also the indigenous people that actually grow and serve the medicine
mm,
benefit, and their communities grow, and they can actually reap the benefits from this tradition. And as they
mm,
heal people, they can be a bit more economically well off. And this is kind
mhm,
of what I believe we do, because obviously I run the retreat and I focus on everything, marketing and the integration part of it, and making people's experience comfortable. But everything that is spiritual is run by our shaman, and he's an indigenous guy. He lives
mm,
in the jungle. He grows and cooks his own ayahuasca. His dad was a shaman. His dad's dad was a shaman. So if you're listening to this podcast and you want to be responsible when it comes to psychedelic tourists, just choose retreats that have indigenous medicine practitioners. This is the best way to start, because you know that it's not like a big pharma company came, stole the formula, and now selling it from the markets. No, they're still doing their tradition. They know what they're doing best, and then also you can feel good, because you know that you are supporting the local communities. Because then to grow ayahuasca, it involves a lot of work. It's actually a very sustainable plant, because you plant it and then you harvest it every 8 years. So it's not like somebody comes in and cuts all the ayahuasca in the jungle and none is left. So this is not really a problem. The problem is sometimes certain communities run out of ayahuasca because it takes 8 years to produce more. And this can be a problem. That temporarily there might not be enough. But if you think about it and you come to the retreat, and let's say the shaman that serves you ayahuasca is indigenous and he has his own plantation, you can say, or like a little forest with ayahuasca vine, then you pay him, and then he pays all the workers that need to do the work, because it's hectares of it. Like one person can't
mm,
possibly take care of all that. And this way you support him, and then from him you then this energy in the form of money gets injected in those communities, and they get better off. And I do believe they deserve it. So there's nothing wrong with the tourism, as long as it's also done responsibly, meaning you don't just show up somewhere in Peru, go to the market, buy ayahuasca, and drink it yourself, and then take too much and die, and then they blame ayahuasca for your death, not like your recklessness. So
Right.
yeah, it can be done responsibly, and there can be this balance.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up, and that I love that you guys are focused on that. Um, because like you said, I mean, ayahuasca itself, you can seek it out and you can do it regardless. But if you're going to do it, try to find someone who's doing it responsibly, someone who is literally paying money and respect to the deep indigenous tradition. Um, and just the fact that the entire world, whether you're indigenous or not, is affected by um, the world economy, capitalism, and having to make money to eat and survive in today's world. There are different shades of that in different parts of the world, and people that are more indigenous than others, surely. But even the indigenous populations in our current climate are struggling to make ends meet and to keep on living. And so it's really wonderful that you are taking that into account and bringing indigenous people into this opportunity, because it is an opportunity. And what you guys appear to be doing at Lawayra is very uh yeah, it's very respectful, and it's also very well done. You guys have, like, I don't know, over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google reviews, which, as someone who
I
also
wish.
works,
No, I think it's a bit more than 250, 1,000. Man, I wish.
well, we'll go ahead
Maybe
and just send
maybe a
you
few
well
years from
wishes
now.
that you get there. But
Yeah.
255-star reviews on the internet, of all places, is very impressive. And my family and I, we work in the tourism and hospitality world as well. We have businesses, and let me tell you, the internet review world it's brutal. So I
Yeah.
hats off to you on that.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that
I
integrity
guess we got
shows.
lucky. We do have two 1-star reviews. It's just that because we have so many 5-star reviews, they don't show up. So it does happen. There are some angry people. They'll leave you bad reviews. I'm afraid I didn't answer your last question because I got carried away.
That's okay.
By Was it about benefits of ayahuasca?
Um, yeah, let's talk about the potential benefits of ayahuasca.
So as you said, we have a lot of reviews. Not 1,000, but we did host about 1,000 people, maybe a bit more by now. And observing them and their own healing process. So it's first of all, it's important to understand ayahuasca is not just for sick people. So you don't need to necessarily be traumatized and depressed to come drink ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is for everyone. I do believe that if you're relatively healthy and you can safely come and drink the medicine, you should definitely try it at least once, because ayahuasca is it's for healing, but it's also for growth, and it's also for connection, and it's also for spirituality. So you can use ayahuasca to heal your depression. You can also use ayahuasca to connect to God, if that's what you're looking to, or you can use it to figure out what to do with your life, or find ways to be better at your job. It depends on the question you ask it, on the intention you set for your ceremony. But what most people come to ayahuasca for is generally some form of relief from depression or anxiety, because it does run rampant right now in the Western society. And there are some estimates that say that up to a third of all North Americans are either depressed or suicidal or anxious, or one of the above, which is I think it's called the mental health crisis that we have now. And our psychology approach basically is not suitable for that. People are given antidepressants, and all they do is plug the holes and just cover up the symptoms, but the main problem never goes away. So people just they're still depressed and still numb, but they're still suicidal. But the only difference is that now they don't kill themselves. Nobody really cares about quality of your life. They just care about,
Mm,
like, you're still functioning, and you go and you do your job and be a good cog in this big mechanism. What
yeah.
ayahuasca does, and yeah, so it's estimated that uh, maybe 0.5% of Americans have had ayahuasca. And if we know that 30% of Americans are in some shape or form depressed and not well off mentally, which leaves us with 29.5% of Americans that need to come and drink ayahuasca. So,
Yeah.
and what ayahuasca does in that context is, when you are depressed or anxious or whatever is the mental health problem that you're experiencing, it normally comes from some root. It can be root trauma, or a combination of traumas, or just you not being happy with your life. And ayahuasca, what it will do, it will point it out for you and show you what is the root, and then it will relieve your pain at first, meaning, like, you won't be depressed for a while. And I'm talking from my own experience, because that's what brought me to ayahuasca. When I started drinking it, it took away the pain and said, like, everything is going to be okay. And then it showed me what to do. And in my case, it was finding, I was depressed because I did not have purpose in my life, and it was dragging me down. And then combination of this plus childhood trauma, and abusive parents and unstable childhood, all of that created the environment where I got depressed. And I'm thinking to myself, if I did not find ayahuasca at that point, what would I do? Some people turn to alcohol,
Mm,
some people turn to drugs, and the hole gets deeper. So we are. I mean, I'm personally very lucky that at the time where I felt this bad, I found ayahuasca, and not only it took me
mm-hmm.
out of the hole, it then gave me the tools to help do it for other people. So yeah, but I'm kind of going all over the place. But yeah, ayahuasca is
No, no.
amazingly beneficial for mental health issues. But if that's not what you're looking for, let's say you are a relatively successful person and you think you're okay and everything is good, what ayahuasca can help in that case is to to help you unlock your creativity. People come here and they write songs and they write poems and they figure out stuff in their life. And maybe there's this one problem that you've been pondering for a long time and don't know how to solve it. It can help you get this little push that you need to actually solve it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think that was a really great way of summarizing the best you can, because I mean, obviously there, like you said, there is so much that can be healed or utilized through this medicine. It's not just for sick people, like you said. Um, and for instance, for you, for it was depression, and it really did open some doors for you to see things in a different way. But just because you don't suffer with depression doesn't mean that ayahuasca cannot provide you with a really powerful experience or a creative experience. And I'm curious, I because I think there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of people suffering with depression or trauma, in the world in general, but especially in America. How do you guys deal with people coming to a retreat, starting the experiences, starting the ceremonies, and then these really deep traumatic experiences arise to the surface? How are the shaman then working with that, when I'm sure it's a very, if someone really doesn't know what's happening or know what they're maybe getting into, might seem really scary. So how are the shaman working with that?
Yeah, well, this is where the indigenous wisdom comes through, because ayahuasca is a part of it. Another part of it is the group itself that comes to the retreat. They support each other, and then the shaman is crucial, because they've been taught, by their grandparents and their grandparents how to do it, and they when you are in the experience, they can come to you and perform, for example, a spiritual cleanse and help you go from like a very negative experience to a very positive experience. But when you're drinking the medicine, and sometimes a very tough moment arises and some trauma gets dislodged, so to speak, there is an aspect to the medicine which is called purging, and that can come in the form of puking or diarrhea, and also like crying and talking, screaming, a lot of ways of releasing that tension that is stored in your body. And sometimes
Hmm.
without even like direct help of Taita, a traumatic memory can arise. You will sort of process it for a little bit, and then you'll purge physically. I mean, you will vomit, and as you're purging, um, it's hard to explain, but you can feel that emotional thing also leaves you, and then
Mm.
a lot of times, not always immediately, the traumatic memory can become just a memory, meaning that trigger, that emotional aspect to it has been disarmed. You can just remember, yeah, something bad happened, but you forgave and you move on. And we really
Mm.
really store a lot of that emotional luggage in our bodies in the form of tension and stress, and even for that, ayahuasca is extremely helpful. It feels like losing that weight and feeling light again, feeling connected again, sort of
Mm.
grass is greener kind of thing. And a lot of people that come to us report that. But what shamans do, first of all, they when you drink ayahuasca, you open up, meaning your soul opens up, and you want to get bad stuff out and throw it outside, but you don't want something to come
Mm.
inside, because working with spirituality, there are some risks, and that's why it's important to do it responsibly. Because
Yeah.
a world is full of entities, spirits, you name it, whatever words you use. But when you're drinking the medicine, you want to get stuff out of you and get rid of it, and not allow anything to come in. So what a shaman does is creates this protective dome around the ceremony and the people, meaning that nothing bad will come in. There will be no, a sort of, as I like to say, catching a loose spirit, some local thing. And I know it sounds a bit woo and a bit strange, and for me, it took a long time for me personally to also start accepting that those things are real, because I come from a very
Mm.
materialistic background. Like I'm non-religious. I'm an engineer by trade. Like, so very like sort of square
Yeah.
square minded. But uh,
Yeah, I think that's important and helpful for some of probably our listeners that and even myself, because I also have I feel like I have 2 sides to myself that's very open and also very material and maybe
yeah,
cynical to a degree of like, "No, there's no way," but, like you said, you've yourself have allowed yourself to open to it, and I'm sure the doing of ayahuasca opens you even further.
yeah, and don't be afraid about this, guys. I mean, yeah, I'm a bit more spiritual now, and I believe things that I used not to believe, but I'm also like 10 times happier. So it's like, what's the trade-off? What are you going to lose? Like, people really attach
Yeah.
themselves to their beliefs, but it's like, do you really benefit from not believing anything? Because, yeah, some people are. I was really atheistic before, meaning like I would laugh in your face if you mentioned God. I would be like, that's bullshit. Science is where it's at. Well, guess what? Science and spirituality is not too mutually, how they say it, like they don't decline each other. Like, it's both can coexist peacefully. And
Right.
believing in God, for example, one of the biggest benefits for me personally after all the ayahuasca journeys I've done myself is I'm no longer afraid of like getting old and dying, because when you see those places where you go after dying or close to them, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I no longer believe that you die and you just rot. No, the body rots, but the soul, our soul is here, basically just playing a game of life, entertaining itself. Like, that's and that's a very relieving notion. It makes your life easier, makes you happier. So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, no, there's a lot of benefits to just opening yourself up to the possibilities. And like you said, even a hard belief in just strict science, hard materialism, atheism, well, that in itself is also a belief. And you have to kind of catch yourself wherever you are in any belief you can get lost in and ask yourself, is this actually benefiting me in this current present lifetime? Am I a happier person? Am I healthier or more able to be present in my relationships person? And whatever that means to you, it's important to be honest to yourself and maybe just ask the question: Can I open to something that I'm pushing away?
Hmm.
And that goes all the way to the problems in our world, and especially in America, is this like pushing away of things that aren't what we currently believe, whether it's politically or whether it's ideologically. There's so much tension in that separation of like, well, they are this and I am this and I cannot be with those people. And it just creates so much anger and anxiety and a tense way of living. And so I hear the
Yeah.
the farm perros.
Yeah, there is. We are the nature guys, so sorry about the noises. But yeah, regarding there is a pushback against spirituality, and rightfully so because of what religion has done. Right? It's very obvious that religion is something that is abusing spirituality for some some gain or some method of control. So that's why I personally understand why I was pushing back against spirituality, because it was tied to religion, and I was I was against religion because I could understand that religion is a human concept, meaning that somebody will eventually come and ruin it for everyone by coming up with the rules that makes no sense, and just because they want to control the population at large. But what religion really is, from my understanding, is a different religions are different languages to speak about spirituality, and unfortunately sometimes there might be a little incorrect or contradict themselves. With like the difference with ayahuasca is, when you come to the retreat, we don't tell you what to believe. We don't tell you like, go and see this, and you can only do this and believe that. You go yourself, you drink the medicine, and you see for yourself what is there, and then you come back, and in the word circle after the ceremony you tell us what you saw. And this is how
Mm,
I myself form my spiritual beliefs now, by observing what people say. And when there's 20 strangers from different parts of the world that go and see one universal truth, then I think like, oh, maybe there's reason in that. And it's like in the religion, the idea is that some prophet or some specific person has a sacrament, meaning he has a vision and understands something, and then he goes and he writes a book, and then many different people translate that book to the point where it loses some of its truth in their favor, and then they tell you you should believe it and never question it. And here's somebody had a sacrament, and then you go and you adopt that belief. With ayahuasca and with psychedelics at large, you have the sacrament,
mm,
so you see it yourself. There is no bad translation. And even for people who have ever done psychedelic, you can imagine how difficult it is to explain in human language what you saw and what you understood. So it's like, I can't even blame those people for doing such a poor job with religions. But it's like, I believe that no matter what version of the God you believe in, and what religious language you describe your spirituality, it will bring you closer to it, because we had everything from Hasidic Jews to Sikhs to tribal religion people, and they get closer to their version of God, because I do believe, I do must say now, I do believe in God. I'm not really sure exactly how to describe it, but you do get to meet it and feel it and understand it. and you don't need words for that. And I
Yeah.
think words is where the problems start, because like our language is just so limited.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was actually gonna bring up was that something like drinking ayahuasca is it takes you to a place beyond words, beyond the mind's ability to explain things, which is where pretty much all of our problems exist, and all of the tricky and separating things we all identify with. And so there is no um, there is no inherent ideology to a medicine like ayahuasca that's just literally a plant brewed from the earth. It is just experiential. And from that experience, you have to distill what it means to you, which is incredibly powerful. Do you have any experiences? Like you just said, I mean, obviously you have plenty of experiences, but you now have this feeling of a God uh, in you. Do you have
Hmm.
any story, a story that kind of brought that to you, or is it just over time?
So I think we have to be careful talking about the subject, because some people will be afraid, because they'll think like, oh, I'm gonna come to this retreat and drink this medicine, and I will forever become this white t-shirt wearing, copper mug drinking, crystal tree hugging kind of person. It's like, it's not like I walk around with like constant notion of God in my soul, but it's more like I have seen what I've seen and I've felt what I've felt, and it just makes you feel at ease with some things. It's kind of like, um how to explain that, but when you face a problem, now you can zoom out a little bit and see things in a different color. When you
Mm,
when you know when you're in fear, or when you're sick, it's like how you, because you believe. For example, I also believe in the power of our thought as well, and manifestation, because the lifestyle
yeah.
I have now is largely manifested. Like you saw my kid right before we started recording. 5 years ago, I sat down and said like I want to have two sons, and I have two sons. I mean, like, how bizarre is that? But
Yeah.
it opens that it opens that belief in yourself, that you can actually manifest things and think things into reality. That's one of the things, as I already mentioned,
Yeah.
like fear of death as well, is one that largely diminishes, because you no longer believe that you just disappear. And also, like, it's somewhat spiritual to also notice synchronicities, and sometimes something happens in your life, and instead of just going against the current and trying to make it push it in a different direction, you can just accept it and understand like, oh, universe or God is trying to teach you a lesson, and they put you in a certain position to understand something. So it's largely, it helps you navigate in life, that way of thinking, where you can
Mm.
trust your intuition a bit more, and just let go a bit more. And I'm no guru, guys, myself. I'm not like all my problems are forever solved. I would say I'm at best maybe one or two steps ahead that an average retreat visitor, but because you just you can only you only need to be one step ahead to like guide somebody forward, and you just keep going together this
Mm.
way. So it is um, it is a hard subject to talk about. Like I feel lack of words, but I hope that I'm conveying something.
You're doing great, and like you said, there is that sense of fear of not wanting to push people away because of using certain terminologies, or you talk about this God experience or psychedelic experience too much, and it conjures up an image of the word today is woo woo, or um, just phony or something like. And surely there are things like that that do exist. People that are having using false experiences to convince people of things, whatever. That is definitely a thing. But what we're talking about here is just a sense of deeper connection to.
Yeah. So I'd like to explain something. It's like if on one side you have like a totally callous person that does not believe in anything and is like completely non-religious, non-spiritual. And on the other side, you have like, as I said, crystal wearing, tree hugging, like completely woo-woo, like to an extent that it's uncomfortable. I would like to say that I'm somewhere in the middle, because there are some things that make me extremely uncomfortable, where people just come up with concepts and things, and it's largely ego driven, and they also
Yeah.
try to make a spirituality as a outwardly uh, looking kind of thing. It's like, oh, like I'm spiritual because I have a fedora with a feather in it, or like I'm spiritual because I have this certain object, or I go to this certain place, like I don't know, Burning Man or something like that. It's not about that. Spirituality is not something you can see from outside. It's like and I'm not saying that I'm myself I'm completely spiritual. I am on that path. I'm developing it. But spirituality is a way of seeing things. Is it's an internal thing. And what I think the problem is with this whole ego driven way of doing things, where you're just creating necessities for people to buy stuff again. Like once again, we sort of losing that direction. What happens is, because of too much woo and a certain lingo those people use, it just pushes away a normal person from experiencing that healing and maybe even exploring their own spirituality. Because whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, you are still a spiritual being. Like we are all spiritual being, because we all have souls, and we're all in it for something. It's whether you deny it or not. It's kind of like you can say like I don't know the rules, but it does not make you not responsible if you break the rule, right? It's same with that. So I do believe it would be great for our world and our society at large to become a bit more spiritual, because that lack of spirituality is what at the moment is creating all those problems and all those frictions between people, because they can't find middle ground, because they separate themselves in us and them, where when you drink ayahuasca you understand we're all one, we're all connected, not just we as human beings, like we together with plants and animals. But so I think it's important to, instead of creating those barriers and make them larger and say like, look at me, I'm spiritual and you're not, we need to lower those barriers of entry for people to come and experience their healing and their spirituality. And for us at Lawayra, this is like, I would say it's our number one goal. And the way we try to do this is to use a language that people understand. Like we don't focus that much on spirituality, because we know it will come as a side effect. We focus on the healing, like, okay, you're depressed, come, we'll help you. We don't say like, if you want to come, then you shouldn't eat meat for 2 years, and avoid sex for 6 months, and then wear the certain type of white t-shirt, like some retreats do, or become a vegan or something like that, because it's not important. Like lowering the barrier of entry in terms of preparation. Of course, we respect things that are really important, like quitting antidepressants or quitting drugs, medical conditions, and working around that. But lowering that, being easy for people to understand, meaning like if you read our website, it's pretty straightforward. I don't use any words you've never heard before. And also making it more comfortable, meaning that people can come here and they can take an airplane and then a taxi and a bus, and they come here. They don't need to walk through jungle for 3 months and get a malaria and stuff like that. So making it comfortable, where you have like comfy beds and you're not in the middle of the jungle where you're gonna get bitten by an anaconda, and like removing that fear. And also, most importantly, lowering the prices, because there are some retreats that, yeah, they're very spiritual, and but they're like $7,000 for a week, and you're like,
Right.
yeah, it becomes a bit ridiculous, where not only rich can be spiritual. So I believe in what you said, that we are really separated right now. Like when we have a group of people coming to the retreat, there can be 20 strangers from all different parts of the world. Some of them might dislike each other automatically because of the programming from our society. By the end of the week, they love each other, they're a family, they're a tribe, because they get away, they remove all this fuss, and what's left over is just beautiful souls growing together, and it's such a beautiful thing to observe. I dream of a world where one day we wake up where everyone had ayahuasca, and all of a sudden everyone loves each other, and like life is great, because largely the problems we create for ourselves, we create them for ourselves. And yeah.
Right. Right. No, and I love that you spoke that much about the inclusivity of the experience, and um that seems to be like a leading theme in the work you're doing with Lawayra, is that sense of inclusivity. I did notice on y'all's website the prices reflect that. There's a lot of retreats out there you can go to, and like you said, some of them are pushing 7+ thousand US dollars, and for a lot of people that's just not realistic. And with you guys, you can have an experience for far less than $1,000. Just from the actual retreat experience. Obviously, getting to Colombia costs money and all that, but um, in the name of that inclusivity, I want to kind of maybe offer the listeners a bit of a maybe behind the scenes looks to kind of demystify some of that woo woo, or maybe what is pushing some people away, or just leaves people a little skeptical or curious, is just not knowing what these retreats look like, and like what it is to show up to a retreat, experience it day after day, and then go home. Can you kind of, in so many words, walk us through what that retreat experience is like from
Hmm.
arrival to departure?
Sure. So, well, what we like to do is people arrive to Medellin airport, then they make their way to Medellin, where we pick them all up in the bus. Normally, let's say, if I'll describe a 1 week retreat, where we do have 4-day retreats, 1 week retreat, 11 days, and 18 days. So you can sort of find what suits you, and depending on how deep you want to go and how much time do you have. So I'll explain the 1 week retreat, because that's the sort of most common retreat. So on Monday you fly to Medellin, and 2 p.m. we pick you up, take you to the retreat. You arrive here to the retreat, and I'd love to show you. I'll try and find a way to show you a bit later how it looks like. But you come in, we settle you in your rooms or your cabins. If you want something a bit nicer, we do have that option too. And then we sit everyone together, and we start with explaining the rules, and then we do a word circle where everyone gets to know each other, and we share our stories a little bit, on why we're here, and what is our intention for this retreat, what we would like to achieve. So that's kind of first step. So first 24 hours, as people arrive, we don't drink any medicine. We just basically allow them to ease in and get comfortable with both the environment, the facilitators, myself, and our team, and also with their group, because ayahuasca experience is many. On the second day, we do a workshop where we talk about navigating your psychedelic experience, and like really explaining to people what's going to happen and what to do and what not to do, and kind of just because we have a lot of first timers, more than 70% that never done ayahuasca before, and we really really want to like dig
Right.
deep so that they uh, get the most out of it. And then on the first night of the second day, we drink the medicine. What ceremony looks like is, it's a sort of dark space. You each have a nice comfortable mattress with your blanket and your pillow. You come to the shaman, he looks at you, he maybe asks you a few questions, then he gives you the cup of the medicine. It's a very small cup. It's medicine is kind of like a viscous liquid, kind of looks like honey, only slightly darker, and it's a bit more bitter in taste. I don't want to talk about taste, because it is extremely difficult to explain. You've never tried it before. People always say at first it doesn't taste that bad, and by the end they're like, "This is the worst thing I've ever tasted." So you drink your cup, you go to your mattress, relax, And yeah, I forgot to mention, before your first cup, we do a breathing exercise and a meditation to also help you to relax. You drink your cup, you lie down, then about an hour later, medicine music starts playing, because it's a live music with indigenous instruments and singing, and it kind of guides your experience and allows you to always feel that you are being protected and connected. My son is trying to get in again. Uh,
It's one of those
okay.
spirits, one of those outside spirits.
Yeah, the joyful child spirit that wants to come in
You
my
need a
office and make a
shaman
mess.
to protect you.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, he is 2.5 years old. He already had ayahuasca before, because in the indigenous tradition, they give kids ayahuasca just a tiny amount. And it's pretty interesting how it affected him, because, like, I would say kids that drink
Wow.
ayahuasca are kind of like the opposite of autistic. Like, they're really, really connected and awake. But not to change the subject.
I
So,
could tell just in the moment that your son came on the camera before we started here, he had a lot of life inside of him.
oh yeah, yeah, he's
And I know that maybe some people hearing that right now, that you just mentioned that your son has had ayahuasca at such a young age, or maybe clutching their pearls right now, but you know what? We're
yeah.
opening here. We're
Well, the reason, I'm not indigenous, right? So why am I adopting this tradition? The reason I decided to do it is, when I went to jungle and I saw their kids, I was like, I don't know what you're giving them, but I wanted to my kids as well. And I didn't have kids back then, but I already made a decision that I would like that, because the way they look at you and speak at you, and like the eye contact, and they're just
Mm,
they're just connected. They're just there, and like, I guess it,
yeah.
it is a bit of a problem right now in the society with all the autism and that kind of stuff. But we
Mm,
were losing the subject. So you drink your first cup, you go to your mattress, the medicine music starts playing. You might experience some visions, some purging, and your process. It's almost impossible to talk about what you're going to experience, because anything can happen. You can feel physical sensations in your body, pain, pleasure. You can see visions. You can feel emotions. You can remember memories. You can tingling. It's like there's 100,000 different kinds of experiences, and it's never the same. And your experience from one ceremony to the other will never repeat itself, and everyone in your group will not have the same experience to you. And this is why it's sort of wrong for some people. They go online and they watch a video about somebody's ayahuasca experience, and they want to experience exactly that. That will never happen. I can assure you one thing, that it will not be what you expect. But I can also assure you another thing, is that medicine might not give you what you want, but it will always give you what you need, which will be more applicable for your life. So you lie down, medicine music starts playing. 2 hours after first cup, you can get second cup. So let's say if you're not connecting or you're not deep enough, you can get second cup, and some brave people 2 hours after that can even have a third cup. And it's generally a dark space with candles. It's quiet. There's some light music playing, and you just people having their introspective journeys. There is always a fire burning, because it's a part of a ceremony as well. And about 6-7 hours after the beginning of the ceremony, people start to slowly come back to normal, and they go to sleep. In the morning, when everyone wakes up, we have a breakfast, and then we have a word circle. Everyone talks about their experience. We try and help you unwrap it, and we do 3 nights like this, 3 night ceremonies. Then we have one day off where you just rest. We have massage people coming over. You can get a massage and do some yoga and meditation, and you journal in your journals. We provide you with special journals that I made. It's called an integration journal. I don't have any on me to show you, but those are really nice. So, and then the last day is the day ceremony, which is when you drink ayahuasca in the morning. It's very beautiful, because you actually see everything around you and you get to connect with the nature, and it's a really beautiful experience generally. Then we do the word circle in the evening, and next day by 11, the bus comes over, picks you up, and takes you to Medellin, from where you continue your travels or go back. So that would be like a summary, I guess. I'm sure I'm missing some things out, but
no, that really helps to kind of put it into
mhm.
visualization for people, where I think you can really easily conjure up a lot of different images when you picture ayahuasca retreat, ceremony, shaman, all these different visual elements that, can maybe seem very overwhelming, or like you're going to be somehow like in the jungle alone,
Yeah.
fighting off these
So
demons,
no,
and
yeah, no human sacrifices, no like punching yourself with sticks or something like that. It's a pretty comfortable and pretty down to earth experience. Like the crazy things you hear about, they all happen here in your head. It's
yeah,
this is where it happens. It's a largely internal experience, but we have a team of, like, our team in general is almost 50 people, but the facilitators, we have a team of generally about 8 people, and you constantly watched over, and the shaman is there. He might not come sit next to you and hold your hand. It's not necessary, but in the spiritual realm, he's there with you, supporting you. And when he knows that somebody's going too deep or their experience is not productive, he'll go to you. He'll take Lawayra, which is that the thing here, which you see. I wish I had one as well. It's like a branch of leaves that they use to move the energies around, and he might spray you with some plant essences and chase the bad vibes away. It's yeah, that's more or less how it looks like. And if you kind of curious about how the retreat looks like and how the space looks like in some ceremonies, go to our Instagram. I think it's Lawayra Ayahuasca, and you can find some photos and maybe even videos how the medicine music sounds like. It's beautiful. I mean, people, that's why we have all those 5-star reviews. it's
right.
uh it's a beautiful experience.
It sounds like even if you came to your retreat and didn't do ayahuasca, it sounds incredibly relaxing and beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. Let me see if I can somehow show you. Yeah, they're drying some clothes there, so it's not too pretty, but the vicinity is this. There's a nice valley, and there's a there's a mountain there, and just nature around us. Hope.
Yeah, that's incredibly lovely. That, I mean, even seeing it through a pixelated computer camera is enough to sell me on it. So I can only imagine. Yeah, well, that really helped. I think for me personally, and I'm sure for a lot of other people who might be curious, just kind of, yeah, help us put into words and put into our own imagination what that experience looks like from a beginning to end, you know, experience, and not just not as mysterious. But with that said, I do, as we kind of wrap up, I want to take a moment to just sort of delight in some of the mysterious, maybe wild things that can come up in the ayahuasca journey. Like, is there, maybe it's your own experience or some experiences you've witnessed in other people's ceremonies or that people have shared afterwards, just something unexplainable or really strange or wild. Um, for instance, I'm curious, like, have there been experiences where a group all sort of shares a common experience through the medicine? Have you ever had stories like that?
Well, yeah, if you want to talk about mysterious and unexplainable things, one would be, yeah, that sometimes there's two or more people that share a same vision, which is kind of hard to explain.
Yeah.
Another thing that is very mysterious is how some people can see other people's processes, and then when they compare it the next morning, they then realize that it's not a coincidence. They were really so connected, that so that connection with people, in between people, without nonverbal connection, is proven over and over again. Another one of those experiences that happens regularly, where somebody has an experience and releases something from their kind of bloodline, I guess, lineage style thing, some kind of intergenerational trauma, and then their family members feel it, and then they come up to conclusion that they both felt it happening, which also proves the connection. Sometimes somebody sees somebody in their vision, and next day this person calls them, that kinds of things. And also, what else is very mysterious is the shamanism itself. Like the sometimes people discover ability to feel other people's energies, or even like healing other people or moving energies, and all of those like pretty woo woo things that are sometimes true.
Yeah.
That's what comes to mind
Mm,
immediately when I think about like unexplainable kinds of things.
right. I mean, that's really cool to think about. People that aren't even present at the retreat, so there's really no way to explain why someone might feel something or feel their presence from so far away, and have them contact them. I don't know. I think that's just fascinating, and I love that that's not explainable.
Yeah, we have connections in between us that we're not that we can't explain, and but once you understand a different worldview where everyone is connected, you can it makes a bit more sense. Because if you think about a planet Earth as a ball with like a tiny little layer of slimy thing that we call life on top of it, we come from Earth. You know, every molecule in your body is something you ate that ate something else or grew from Earth. It's like how unbelievable it is to believe that we are connected. You know, genetically we're like 90% same as a banana, right? It's like we are life in general is just one thing. So it's understanding it, and then understanding that humans are connected on some other levels. It's we might not know how exactly, but you know you can download a movie through Wi-Fi and it's also invisible. And back in the day, we didn't know that it was a thing. It was how impossible it is to believe that there is some connection in between us, and especially between family members, because you came from your mother's body, like you made from her and from your dad's. Like how unbelievable it is to feel that sometimes her emotions or thought might pass through you, and vice versa. So I do believe in it
Right.
now. I know it's hard, we don't know how to explain it, but it's definitely real.
Right. No, it is that truth of there are so many things that we currently accept as just normal life, normal truth, that if you really take even just a few moments to sit with, it's like actually that's wild and miraculous in itself. Like you said,
Hmm.
the technology of Wi-Fi, or even just something as simple as being born at all, is just it's so profoundly absurd. That is it really so absurd to go another step further.
And that's what ayahuasca largely teaches us. That's what it shows us, you know, that we are part of a nature. It shows us this connection to nature. It shows us that, you know, we should love our planet, for example, try not to destroy it because it's valuable. And there's beauty in it. There's intelligence in plants. It's something we as in you know in the Western society we sort of don't believe in. And you know, spirituality is not just fancy words and fancy clothes. Spirituality is also that accepting that
Mm.
we are the part of a planet and we ought to love it.
Yes, yes. I think that is the thing of spirituality in quotation marks is this assumption that spirituality is its own separate topic, or there's a separate place for spirituality, just like there's a separate place for science, or whatever. It's like we said from the beginning, it's about the fact that there actually is no separation, that everything is a spiritual experience. Everything is a scientific experience. There is no distinction. And when you can really feel into that and experience it, life just becomes ultimately very rich. Even the so-called negative experiences become just rich and full of lessons.
You're a philosopher, Ali. Well, very well said.
I'm just a podcast host who likes to talk to people. But
Well, there is no separation between podcasting and philosophy. you know?
These days, apparently not.
Yeah.
um, man, I'm fascinated and I'm incredibly curious and just feeling excited and wondrous about what we just talked about. I think there's probably some people listening who feel the same way. What do you recommend for people who might be close to feeling ready to take ayahuasca or go on a journey to go on a retreat? What are your recommendations for people feeling that way?
Well, if you feel ready, or even if you don't feel ready, just come over to Lawayra, and this invitation extends to you as well, Ellie. Hope that I kind of shed some light to this medicine and its magical properties and how it changes people's lives. Don't take my word for it. Just find us on social media. It can be Instagram or YouTube or even TikTok. We're Lawayra or Lawayra Ayahuasca everywhere, and we have hundreds of testimonial videos you can watch and just see. Find one that has a person that had similar problem to yours and how they felt relieved from it, or similar challenge, or maybe somebody wanted to achieve something you want to achieve, and that can help you as well. Because obviously, um, yeah, read our Google reviews as well. I can't control those, so if people write them, it means they're true, and there's many of them, and some of them are very detailed,
Mm.
and I would say that would be the best place to start. And if you just you feel ready, just go to lawayra.com, book a retreat, and come over. Maybe Ellie will be there with you. You never know.
Maybe some of my listeners will reach out to me and we can all go together.
That also can be helpful. But whether you come here or to some other retreat, if let's say there is a place closer to you, which is totally fine. I'm not gonna get offended if you don't come here. Just do your due diligence. Choose a place that has an indigenous shaman, that their medicine is pure, doesn't have any addiction additives to it. Make sure that the shaman grows and cooks his own medicine, because each part of this has its own ceremony. It has to be respected. Make sure the center you go to offers good facilitation. Make sure they have focus on integration. They don't just give you ayahuasca and leave you be, and don't give you any guidance on how to get something out of it. Make sure that you will be both physically and spiritually safe, meaning you're not like on the edge of a cliff and then you just go and run off it and there's nobody to take care of you. That they have a good team of facilitators. So yeah, it's ayahuasca is very, very safe if it's done properly, like very safe. And I can tell you that because I drink it myself. My family drinks it. But if it's not done correctly or done recklessly, or somebody just thinks, they had ayahuasca once or twice and now they're a shaman and they want to give it to you, please run away. Don't do it. It's a shaman is like a neurosurgeon for your soul. It might look
Mm.
simple on the surface for somebody who doesn't understand. He just sits there and meditates, but what the work they do is beyond our understanding. So it's important to attach yourself to a tradition, because some of those traditions, the roots go back to 5,000 years or even more. We don't really know, but the science says it's at least 4,000-year-old tradition. So they know their stuff, and they have their wisdom, and the tradition is beautiful. The music, the clothing they wear, the wisdom they say. Like, we're just lucky because it was a secret up till maybe 50 years ago. They were not telling us about that, and you could not come to Colombia and do ayahuasca because they would just be in the jungle and they would shoot you with arrows and if you came close.
Yeah.
But what they say is about 20, 30 years ago, all the shamans of different traditions and different medicines started receiving messages from the earth itself, that the world is sick and needs some healing, and that you need to go to the cities and start giving medicine there because this is where it's needed. And they listened to that calling and came out of their caves and their jungles and their mountains and started. Some of them started traveling around the world giving medicine. And the least we can do is, pay them fairly because they do deserve to have a good lifestyle as well. And um, just treat the medicine with reverence and treat tradition as sacred, because this is what it is. It is a sacred tradition. And we just got, it's kind of like you got invited into a cool guys club, and you don't really deserve it. Like we just got lucky that we are living in this period of time, because my dad, I know he got depressed about same age I did and had similar problems, and he had no ayahuasca, so he started drinking, and now he's an alcoholic. Like, how lucky am I to be in this position where I can just, actually get an actual healing and get attached to this long tradition that's been shared with us. Is just privilege. We're just lucky. So take advantage of it, and I do believe in one day we'll have a world where most people have some form of spirituality, and it's not only achievable through ayahuasca and psychedelics. It can be achieved by different mindfulness practices. It's just that ayahuasca just happens to be one of those very efficient and very fast acting ways, and it can open you to other modalities. But I do believe that one day the world, when we have, instead of having 30 people depressed, if we can have 30 people very spiritually advanced, and they can like fix the other 70%. Like, all you need to do is sometimes is a kind word and some support, and like we really need it, because I do believe that if we don't fix ourselves, we're probably going to destroy ourselves together with the rest of the life on this beautiful planet. So yeah,
Isn't that
if not
true?
for yourself, drink ayahuasca for the world, guys. And it doesn't have to be ayahuasca. Once again, just explore your spirituality, stop yourself, and listen to your dreams when you sleep. Try and understand what meaning they come to. Be in the nature. Go walk bare feet in the forest for a bit, and just put your phone away for a couple hours and look in the sky. It's all around us. It's just that we need those tools, those strong tools now to reconnect, because we're just so disconnected. But
Mm.
find a way, guys. And if you do come to Lawayra, man, I would love to have you. And that's one experience I can be 100% sure it's safe, because it's I created myself. And the way we created Lawayra is, I've never been to an ayahuasca retreat myself. I only went to drink ayahuasca in like a very traditional jungle kind of setting. So the way we created this retreat is basically how I would want to experience it myself, meaning from the food to comfortable mattresses and just facilities and all of that. So yeah, guys, come here, experience what we have created for you. It'd be great to have you, and
Wow.
you, Ali, as well. I'll give you a big discount. Okay.
Thank you, Sam. And thank you for creating something that is safe and sacred and rooted in a sense of genuine provide wanting to provide goodness to people. And thank you for being somebody who sheds light on how this can be such a positive experience for people, and not just focusing on it being a business or putting people's lives in danger, because that is a reality in um, some of these experiences that can be had. And I just am so grateful that there are people like you who are focusing on this. And yeah, just thank you, man. Um,
Thank
so
you,
the
man.
title
I'm
of this,
grateful there are people like you as well that are
oh, thank you.
open to listen and spread the message.
Yeah. With that said, the title of this podcast is Comfort in Chaos. And so I ask every guest that comes on, what is something in your present day that's providing you some comfort in the chaos that can be this human life?
Well, the answer is very simple. It's ayahuasca.
How
Because
did I
because
how did I
because
know that
when
was coming?
yeah, it's pretty obvious. When you mentioned something about it being a business and spirituality, this is extremely tough. Just for those of you who might want to start an ayahuasca retreat one day, I would believe it's one of the most difficult businesses to run, because maintaining a balance where you're like passionate about medicine and you want to heal people, and then at the same time making money is just extremely difficult. So when I get, I've been working nonstop for the last 2 years on this project. Obviously, it's my life's mission. But when I get tired and I just can't no more, I'm burning out and like ready to give up.
Yeah.
I have an unfair advantage. I can just have a cup of ayahuasca and like ask for some help, and it always does. So my comfort in this chaos is ayahuasca itself. But ayahuasca is chaos as well. Like when you go into those realms and psychedelic experiences, and my comfort during ayahuasca in chaos is medicine music, because it's that
Mm,
lifeline where you feel that there's actually somebody here um, protecting you. You're not on your own. So I hope that
right.
answers your question.
It surely does. And if that's not a testimony in and of itself, folks, then I don't know what is. Well, Sam, just thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and share what you have going on with Lawayra. I'm definitely going to be sharing in the episode notes all of your social media links, your website, how people can get in touch with you guys if they're feeling called to take this journey. And I'm really excited to see where it goes, man. I believe in you fully.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you very much for having me. Um, I do see a genuine curiosity in you, and I'm sure that the reason you found me and the way we met is also for a reason. Maybe medicine is calling for you too, and sometimes now you became a voice in it. And trust me, the people that make that decision, they will then tell you thank you. Maybe years from now, you'll be like, oh, like I listened to your podcast, and then I went and did ayahuasca and changed my life. So it's really, it really works in mysterious ways. So I'm excited to spread that message, and I appreciate you. And yeah, sorry guys for all the countryside noises. We do have 4 beautiful puppies here running around. They like to bark and
I don't
play.
think anyone on this podcast is against hearing dogs. If they are, this isn't the podcast for you.
I'd subscribe right now.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, man. And let's do part 2 of this episode when I get to Colombia and we hang out. And
Yeah, we can do it one on one and actually sit next to each other in the same frame.
yeah, and we'll do it on the other side of a whole different experience.
That's a plan.
All right. All right, Sam. Until next time, man. Take care.
Thank you.
Alrighty, y'all. That was Sam Believ from Lawayra Ayahuasca. All the links to their social media and website will be in the episode notes. And as always, I love to hear any feedback you guys have about the show, any recommendations for future guests, and just love to hear from you. Hope y'all take care and have a blessed week. Much love. Peace.